a power germ which expands and projects itself in the direction your word indicates, and ultimately develops into physical expression. For example, you wish the consciousness of joy. Repeat the word joy secretly, persistently, and empathically. The repetition of the word joy sets up a quality of vibration which causes the joy germ to begin to expand and project itself until your whole being is filled with joy. This is not a mere fancy, but a truth. Once you experience this power, you will daily prove to yourself that these facts have not been fabricated to fit a theory, but the theory has been built up by careful observation of facts. Everyone knows that joy comes from within. No one can give it to you. Another may give you cause for joy, but no one can be joyous for you. Joy is a state of consciousness, and consciousness is purely mental. Troward says the mental faculties always work under something which stimulates them, and this stimulus may come either from without, through the external senses, or from within, by the consciousness of something not perceptible on the physical plane. The recognition of this interior source of stimulus enables you to bring into your consciousness any state you desire. Once a thing seems normal to you, it is assuredly yours through the law of growth and attraction, as it is yours to no addition after you have learned the use of figures. This method of repeating the word makes the word in all of its limitless meaning yours, because words are the embodiment of thoughts, and thought is creative, neither good nor bad, simply creative. This is the reason why faith builds up and fear destroys. Only believe, and all things are possible unto you. It is faith that gives you dominion over every adverse circumstance or condition. It is your word of faith that sets you free, not faith in any specific thing or act, but simple faith in your best self in all ways. It is this ever-present creative power within the art of the word that makes your health, your peace of mind, and your financial condition a reproduction of your most habitual thought. If you hear some rumors like door closing, is because there is rain and a little bit much wind, so some doors are crashing. Your peace of mind and your financial condition are a reproduction of your most habitual thought. Try to believe and understand this, and you will find yourself master of every adverse circumstance or condition. For you will become a prince of power. I take some pause because I made myself some tea and I have some biscuits here with me. Put yourself cozy, Philip. Pussone. This is my mug. So give me some time when I make some pause. Near there, can I caress him? We take your tea. But you ask, how can I speak the word of faith when I have little or no faith? Every living thing has faith in something or somebody. Faith is that quality of power which gives the creative energy a corresponding vitality. And the vitality in the word of faith you use causes it to take corresponding physical form. Even intense fear is alive with faith. Your fear smallpox because you believe it possible for you to contact it. You fear poverty and loneliness because you believe them possible for you. It is the faith which understands that every creation had is birth in the womb of thought words. That gives you dominion over all things, your lesser self included. And this feeling of faith is increased and intensified through observing what it does. Your constant observation should be of your state of consciousness when you did, not when you hoped you might, but feared it was too good to be true. How did you feel that time when you simply had to bring yourself into better frame of mind and did? Oh, amore. Or you had to have a certain thing and got it? Live these experiences over again and again, mentally, until you really feel in touch with the self which knows and does, and then the best there is yours. Your desire to be your best has expanded your faith into the faith of the universe, which knows no failure and has brought you into conscious realization that you are a part of the universe. Consequently, you are able to recognize that there is that within yourself which is able to make conscious contact with the universal law and enables you to press all the particular laws of nature, whether visible or invisible, into serving your particular desire or demand. Thereby, you find yourself um, Troward tells us that this mastering is to be accomplished by knowledge, and the only knowledge which will afford this purpose in all its measureless immensity is the knowledge of the personal element in universal spirit and its reciprocity to our own personality. In other words, the words you think, the personality you feel yourself to be, sorry, are all reproductions in miniature of spirit, specialized universal spirit. All your word thoughts were spirit word forms before they were yours. The words you use are the instruments, channels through which the creative energy takes form. Naturally, this sensitive creative power can only reproduce in accordance with the instrument through which it passes. All disappointments and failures are the result of endeavoring to think one thing and produce another. This is just as impossible as it would be for an electric fan to be used for lighting purposes or for water to flow through a crooked pipe in a straight line. The water must take the shape of the pipe through which it flows. Even more truly, this sensitive, invisible substance must reproduce outwardly the shape of the thought world through which it passes. This is the law of its nature. Therefore, it logically follows, as a man thinketh, so he is. Hence, when your thought or word form is in correspondence with the eternal constructive and forward movement of the universal law, then your mind is the mirror in which the infinite power and intelligence of the universe sees itself reproduced, and your individual life becomes one of harmony. How to make nature respond to you. It should be steadily borne in mind that there is an intelligence and power in all nature and all space, which is always creative and infinitely sensitive and responsive. The responsiveness of its nature is twofold. It is creative and amenable to suggestion. Once the human understanding grasps this all important fact, he realizes the simplicity with which the law of life supplies your every demand. All that is necessary is to realize that your mind is a center of spirit operation and consequently contains that within itself which accepts suggestions and expects all life to respond to your call. Then you will find suggestions which tend to be the fulfillment of your desire coming to you, not only from your fellow man, but also from the flowers, the grass, the trees, and the rocks, which will enable you to fulfill your heart's desire, if you act upon them in confidence on this physical plan. Faith without works is dead, but faith with works sets you absolutely free. It is said of Tyson, the great Australian millionaire, that the suggestion to make the desert land of Australia blossom as the rose came to him from a modest little Australian violet while he was working as a bushman for something like 3 shillings a day. He used to find these friendly little violets growing in certain places in the woods, and something in the flower touched something akin to itself in the mind of Tyson. He would sit on the side of his bunk at night and wonder how flowers and vegetable life could be given an opportunity to express themselves in the desert land of Australia. No doubt he realized that it will take a long time to save enough money to put irrigating ditches in the desert lands, but his thoughts and feelings assured him it could be accomplished, and if it could be done, he could do it. If there was a power within himself which was able to capture the idea, then there must be a responsive power within the idea itself which could bring itself into a practical physical manifestation. He resolutely put aside all questions as to the specific ways and means which would be employed in bringing his desire into physical manifestation, and simply kept his thoughts centered upon the idea of making fences and seeing flowers and grass where none existed at the time. Since the responsiveness of reproductive creative power is not limited to any local condition of mind, his habitual meditation and mental picture set his ideas free to roam in an infinitude and attract to themselves other ideas of a kindred nature. Therefore, it was not necessary for Tyson to wait until he best saved from his 3 shillings a day enough money to irrigate the land, to see his ideas and desires fulfilled. For his ideas found other ideas in the financial world which were attuned in sympathy with themselves, and doors of finance were quickly opened. All charitable institutions are maintained upon the principle of the responsiveness of life. If this was not true, no one would care to give simply because another needed. The law of demand and supply, cause and effect, can never be broken. Ideas attract to themselves kindred ideas. Sometimes they come from a flower, a book, or out of the invisible. You are intent upon an idea not quite complete as to the ways and means of fulfillment. And behold, along comes another idea, from no one can tell where, and finds friendly lodging with your idea. One idea attracting another, and so on, until your desires are physical facts. You may feel the necessity for improvement in your finances and wonder how this increase is to be brought about, when there seems suddenly to come from within the idea itself, the realization that everything, even money, had its part in thought, and your thoughts turn their course. You simply hold to the statement or affirmation that the best and all there is yours. You simply, oh, since you are able to capture ideas from the infinite through the instrument of your intuition, you let your mind rest upon the thought, knowing full well that this very thought will respond to itself. Your inhibition of all doubt and anxiety enables the reassuring ideas to establish themselves and attract to themselves I can and I will ideas, which gradually grow into the physical form of the desire in your mind. In the conscious uses of the universal power to reproduce your desires in physical form, three facts should be borne in mind. First, all space is filled with a creative power. Second, this creative power is amenable to suggestion. Third, it can only work by deductive methods. As Troward tells us, this last is an exceedingly important point, for it implies that the action of the ever-present creative power is in no way limited by precedent. It works according to the essence of the spirit of the principle. In other words, this universal power takes its creative direction from the word you give it. Once man realizes the great truth, the character with which this sensitive reproductive power is invested becomes the most important of all his considerations. It is the unvarying law of creative life principle that, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you realize the truth that the creative power can be to you only what you feel and think it to be, it is willing and able to meet your demands. Troward says, if you think your thought is powerful, your thought is powerful. Let me have a little bit of my tea. I don't know if you can see the little fly above my cat. Oops. So, as a man thinks in his heart, so easy is the law of life. The creative power can no more change this law than an ordinary mirror can reflect back to you a different image than the object you hold before it. As you think, so are you. Does not mean as you tell people you think, or as you will wish the world to believe you think. It means your innermost thoughts, the place where no one but you knows. No one can know the Father save the Son, and no one can know the Son but the Father. Only the reproductive creative spirit of life knows what you think. Until your thoughts become physical facts and manifest themselves in your body, your brain, or your affairs, then everyone with whom you come into contact may know, because the Father, the intelligent creative energy, which area in secret your most secret thoughts, rewards you openly, reproduces your thoughts in physical form. As you think, that is what you become. Should be kept in the background of your mind constantly. This is watching and praying without ceasing, and when you are not feeling quite up to par physically, pray. Uh, shine, Scientific thinking, positive thought. Try, through careful, positive, enthusiastic, though not strenuous thought, to realize that the indescribable, invisible substance of life fills all space, that its nature is intelligent, undifferentiated substance. 5 o'clock in the morning is the best time to go into this sort of meditation. Well, even another hour. If you will retire early every night for 1 month, amore. If you will retire early every night for 1 month and before falling asleep, impress firmly upon your subjective mind the affirmation: my spirit is the ruler of all the world and is expressing its directing power through me, you will find that the substance of life takes form in your thought molds. Do not accept the above suggestion simply because it is given to you. Think it over carefully until the impression is made upon your own subconscious mind understandingly. Rise every morning, as was suggested before, at 5 o'clock. Sit in a quiet room in a straight back chair and think out the affirmation of the previous evening, and you will realize and be able to put into practice your princely power with the realization, to some extent at least, that your mind really is a center through which all the creative energy and power there is taking form. The principle underlying scientific power. In prayer for a changing condition, physical, mental, or financial, for yourself or another, bear in mind that the fundamental necessity for the answer to prayer is the understanding of the scientific statement: ask, believing you have already received, and you shall receive. This is not as difficult as it appears on the surface, once you realize that everything has its origin in mind, and that which you seek outwardly you already possess. No one can think a thought in the future. Your thought of a thing constitutes its origin. Therefore, the thought form of the thing is already yours as soon as you think it. Your steady recognition of this thought possession causes the thought to concentrate, to condense, to project itself, and to assume physical form. The recognition or conception of new sources of wealth is the loftiest aspiration you can take into your heart, for it assumes and implies the furtherance of all noble aims. Remember that which you call treatment or prayer is not in any sense hypnotism. It should never be your endeavor to take possession of the mind of another. Remember, it should never be your intention to make yourself believe that which you know to be untrue. You are simply thinking into God or first cause with understanding that if a thing is true at all, there is a way in which it is true through the universe. Remember that the power of thought works by absolutely scientific principles. These principles are expressed in the language of the statement: as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. This statement contains a word of wisdom, but man's steady recognition and careful application of the statement itself is required to bring it into practical use. Remember that the principles involved in being, as we think in our heart, are elucidated and revealed by the law. As you sow, so shall you reap. Remember that your freedom to choose just what you will think, just what thought possession you will affirm and claim, constitutes God's gift to you. It shows how First Cause has endowed every man with the power and ability to bring into his personal environment whatever he chooses. If you plant an acorn, you get an oak. If you sow a grain of corn, you reap a stalk and many kernels of corn. You always get a manifestation of that which you consciously or unconsciously affirm and claim, habitually declare and expect, or in other words, as you sow. Therefore, sow the seeds of I am, I ought to do, I can do, I will do. Realize that because you are, you ought to do. That because you ought to, you can do. That because you can do, you do. The manifestation of this truth, even in a small degree, gives you the indisputable understanding that dominion is your charter right. You are an heir of first chaos, and though without the power he has, Spirit has given you everything. All is yours, and you know that all you have to do is to reach out to your mental hand. This formula may serve as a pattern to shape your own prayer or affirmation into spirit for the benefit of another or yourself. If for another you speak the name of the person you wish to help, then dismiss their personality entirely from your consciousness. Intensify your thought by meditating upon the fact that there is that in you which finds the way, which is the truth and is the life. You are affirming this fact, believing that since you are thinking this, it is already yours. Having lifted up your feeling to the central idea of this meditation, you examine your own consciousness and see if there is aught which is unlike spirit, if there is any feeling of fear, worry, malice, envy, hatred. Turn back in your meditation to cleanse your thought through the affirmation that Spirit's love and purity fills all space, including your heart and soul. Reconcile your thought with the love of Spirit, always remembering that you are made in the image and likeness of love. Keep this cleansing thought in mind until you feel that you have freed your consciousness entirely of all thoughts and feelings other than love and unity with all humanity. Then, if denials do not disturb you, deny all that is unlike your desired manifestation. This accomplished, you almost overlay your denial with the affirmative thought that you are made in the image and likeness of spirit, and already have your desire fulfilled in its original thought form. Prayer, as a method of thought, is a deliberate use of the law, which gives you the power of dominion over everything which tends in any way to hamper your perfect liberty. You have been given life that you may enjoy it more and more fully. The steady recognition of this truth makes you declare yourself a prince of power. You recognize, accept, and use this power as the child of a king, and hence dominion is your birthright. Then, when you feel the light of this great truth flooding your consciousness, open the floodgates of your soul in heartfelt praise, because you have the understanding that the Creator and His creation are one. Also, that the Creator is continually creating through His creation. Close your treatment in the happy assurance that the prayer which is fulfilled is not a form, is a steady habitual affirming that the Creator of all creation is operating specifically through me. Therefore, the work must be perfectly done. Your mind is a center of divine operation. Hints for application and practice. For every 5 minutes given to reading and study of the theories of mental science, spend 15 minutes in the use and application of the knowledge acquired. Spend 1 minute in every 24 hours to conscientiously thinking over the specification that must be observed in order to have your prayers answered. Practice the steady recognition of desirable thought possession for 2 periods of 15 minutes each every day. Not only time yourself each period to see how long you can keep a given conception before your mental vision, but also keep a written record of the vividness with which you experience your mental image. Remember that your mental senses are just as varied and trainable as your physical ones. Spend 5 minutes every day between 12 noon and 1 o'clock with a mental research for new sources of wealth. Now I finish my biscuit. Wait. I finished the tea. Things to remember that the greatest mental scientist the world has ever known said all things are possible unto you. Jesus Christ, the man. Also, the things I do, you can do. Did he tell the truth? Jesus did not claim to be more divine than you are. He declared the whole human race, children of spirit. By birth, he was no exception to this rule. The power we possessed was developed through his personal effort. He said you could do the same if you would only believe in yourself. Anyway, in other books, some authors they just say that is a metaphor that is not really lived. A great idea is valueless unless accompanied by physical action. Spirit gives the idea, man works it out upon the physical plan. All that is really worthwhile is contentment. Self-command alone can produce it. The soul and body are one. Contentment of mind is contentment of soul, and contentment of soul means contentment of body. If you wish health, watch your thoughts, not only of your physical being, but your thoughts about everything and everybody. With your will, keep them in line with your desire, and outwardly act in accordance with your thoughts, and you will soon realize that all power, both over thoughts and conditions, has been given to you. You believe in God, believe in yourself as the physical instruments through which God operates. Absolute dominion is yours when you have sufficient self-mastery to conquer the negative tendency of thoughts and action. Ask yourself daily, what is the purpose of the power which put me here? How can I work with a purpose for life and liberty in me? After having decided these questions, endeavor hourly to fulfill them. You are a law unto yourself, and let's open the heater because there is a little bit. Drink or blame circumstances for your misfortunes. Conquer the tendency with the inward conviction that all power is yours. Eat less, drink less, blame circumstances less, and the best there is will gradually grow in the place where the worst seem to be. Always remember that you can if you will. If you will, you do. Spirit is with all he has to give. Make good godly use of it. The reason for greater success when you first began your studies and demonstrations in mental science was your joy and enthusiasm at the simple discovery of power within, which was greater than you were able to put into your understanding later. With increased understanding comes increasing joy and enthusiasm, and the results will correspond. We finished this book. Now I finish my biscuit. Now I want to read here for around 1 hour to make a pause. So let's see to read the book of Troward. Thomas Troward. Let's start from chapter 10, Intuition. We have seen that the subjective mind is amenable to suggestion by the objective mind, but there is also an action of the subjective mind upon the objective. The individual's subjective mind is his own innermost self, and his first care is the maintenance of the individuality of which it is the foundation. And since it is pure spirit, it has its continual existence in that plane of being where all things subsist in the universal here and the everlasting now, and consequently can inform the lower mind of things removed from its ken, either by distance or futurity. As the absence of the conditions of time and space must logically concentrate all things into a present focus, we can assign no limit to the subjective power, mind's power of perception, and therefore the question arises, why does it not keep the objective mind continually informed on all points? And the answer is that it will do so if the objective mind were sufficiently trained to recognize this indication given. And to effect this training is one of the purposes of mental science. When once we recognize the position of the subjective mind as the supporter of the whole individuality, we cannot doubt that much of what we take to be the spontaneous movement of the objective mind has its origin in the subjective mind, prompting the objective mind in the right direction without our being consciously aware of it. But at times, when the urgency of the case seems to demand it, or when, for some reason yet unknown, the objective mind is for a while more closely in rapport with the subjective mind, the interior voice is heard strongly and persistently. And when this is the case, we do well to play heed to it. Want of space forbids me to give example, but doubtless such will not be wanting in the reader's experience. The importance of understanding and following the intuition cannot be exaggerated, but I candidly admit the great practical difficulty of keeping the happy mean between the disregard of the interior voice and allowing ourselves to be run away with the groundless fancies. The best guide is the knowledge that comes of personal experience, which gradually leads to the acquisition of a sort of inward sense of touch that enables us to distinguish the true from the false, and which appears to grow with a sincere desire for truth and with the recognition of the spirit as its source. The only general principles the writer can deduce from his own experience are that when, in spite of all appearances pointing in the direction of a certain line of conduct, there is still a persistent feeling they shall not be followed. In the majority of instances, it will be found that the argument of the objective mind, however correct on the facts, objectively known was deficient from ignorance of facts which could not be objectively known at the time, but which were known to the intuitive faculty. Another principle is that our very first impression of feeling on any subject is generally correct. Before the objective mind has begun to argue on the subject, it is like the surface of a smooth lake which clearly reflects the light from above. And sometimes, on some stuff, I guess my favorite author is Fenwick Holmes on this stuff. He say different things. Um, this first conception is very speedily lost, and it should therefore be carefully observed and registered in the memory with a view to testing the various arguments which will subsequently arise on the objective plan. On some things is better throughout, and some other Fenwick Holmes. I was thinking even about another author now. It doesn't come to my mind their name. Annie Besant. It is, however, impossible to reduce so interior an action as that of intuition to the form of hard and fast rules, and beyond carefully noting particular cases as they occur. Probably the best plan for the student will be to include the whole subject of intuition in the general principle of the law of attraction, especially if he sees how this law interacts with that personal quality of universal spirit of which we have already spoken. The will. The will is of such primary importance that the student should be on his guard against any mistake as to the position which it holds in the mental economy. Many writers and teachers insist on willpower as though that were the creative faculty. No doubt intense willpower can evolve certain external results, but like all other methods of compulsion, it lacks the permanency of natural growth. The appearances, forms, and conditions produced by mere intensity of willpower will only hang together so long as the compelling force continues. The mistake is in attributing the creative power to the will. Or perhaps I should say, in attributing the creative power to ourselves at all. The truth is that man never creates anything. His function is not to create, but to combine and distribute that which is already in being, and what we call our creations are new combinations of already existing material, whether mental or corporeal. This is amply demonstrated in the physical sciences. No one speaks of creating energy, but only of transforming one form of energy into another. And if we realize this as a universal principle, we shall see that on the mental plane, as well as on the physical, we never create energy, but only provide the conditions by which the energy already existing in one mode can exhibit itself in another. Therefore, what, relatively to man, we call his creative power is that receptive attitude of expectancy which, so to say, makes a mold into which the plastic and as yet undifferentiated substance can flow and take the desired form. The will has much the same place in our mental machinery that the tool holder has in a power lathe. It is not the power, but it keeps the mental faculties in that position relatively to the power which enables it to do the desired work. If, using the word in its widest sense, we may say that the imagination is the creative function, we may call the will the centralizing principle. Its function is to keep the imagination centered in the right direction. We are aiming at consciously controlling our mental powers instead of letting them hurry us hither and thither in a purposeless manner. And we must therefore understand the relation of these powers to each other for the production of external results. First, the whole train of causation is started by some emotion which gives rise to a desire. Next, the judgment determines whether we shall externalize this desire or not. Then, the desire, having been approved by the judgment, the will comes forward and directs the imagination to form the necessary spiritual prototype, and the imagination, thus centered on a particular object, creates the spiritual nucleus, which in its turn acts as a center around which the forces of attraction begins to work and continue to operate until, by the law of growth, the concrete result becomes perceptible to our external senses. The business of the will, then, is to retain the various faculties of our mind in that position where they are really doing the work we wish. And this position may be generalized into the three following attitudes. Either we wish to act upon something or be acted on by it, or to maintain a neutral position. In other words, we either intend to project a force or receive a force or keep a position of inactivity relatively to some particular object. Now the judgment determines which of these three positions we shall take up: the consciously active, the consciously receptive, or the consciously neutral. And then the function of the will is simply to maintain the position we have determined upon. And if we maintain any given mental attitude, we may reckon with all certainty on the law of attraction drawing us to those correspondences which exteriorly symbolize the attitude in question. This is very different from the semi-animal screwing up of the nervous forces which, with some people, stands for willpower. It implies no strain on the nervous system, and is consequently not followed by any sense of exhaustion. The willpower, when transferred from the region of the lower mentality to the spiritual plane, becomes simply a calm and peaceful determination to retain a certain mental attitude, in spite of all temptation to the contrary, knowing that by doing so the desired result will certainly appear. The training of the will and its transference from the lower to the higher plane of our nature are among the first objects of mental science. The man is summed up in his will. Whatever he does by his own will, is his own act. Whatever he does without the consent of his will is not his own act, but that of the power by which his will was coerced. But we must recognize that, on the mental plane, no other individuality can obtain control over our will unless we first allow it to do so. And it is for this reason that all legitimate use of mental science is towards the strengthening of the will, whether in ourselves or others, and bring it under the control of an enlightened reason. When the will realizes its power to deal with first cause, it is no longer necessary for the operator to state to himself in extenso all the philosophy of its action every time he wishes to use it, but, knowing that the trained will is a tremendous spiritual force acting on the plane of first cause, he simply expresses his desire with the intention of operating on that plane, and knows that the desire thus expressed will in due time externalize itself as concrete fact. He now sees that the point which really demands his earnest attention is not whether he possesses the power of externalizing any result he chooses, but of learning to choose wisely what result to produce. For let us not suppose that even the highest powers will take us out of the law of cause and effect. We can never set any cause in motion without calling forth those effects which it already contains in embryo, and which will again become causes in their turn. thus producing a series which must continue to flow on until it is cut short by bringing into operation a cause of an opposite character to the one which originated it. Thus, we shall find the field for the exercise of our intelligence continually expanding with the expansion of our powers. For, granted a good intention, we shall always wish to contemplate the results of our action as far as our intelligence will permit. We may not be able to see very far, but there is one safe general principle to be gained from what has already been said about causes and conditions, which is that the whole sequence always partakes of the same character as the initial cause. If that character is negative, that is, destitute of any desire to externalize kindness, cheerfulness, strength, beauty, or some other sort of good, this negative quality will make itself felt all down the line. But if the opposite affirmative character is in the original motive, then it will reproduce its kind in forms of love, joy, strength, and beauty with unerring precision. Before setting out, therefore, to produce new conditions by the exercise of our thought power, we shall weigh carefully what further results they are likely to lead to. And here again we shall find an ample field for the training of our will in learning to acquire the self-control which will enable us to postpone an inferior present satisfaction to a greater prospective good. These considerations naturally lead us to the subject of concentration. I have just now pointed out that all duly controlled mental action consists in holding the mind in one of three attitudes. But there is a fourth mental condition, which is that of letting our mental functions run on without our will directing them to any definite purpose. It is on this word purpose that we must fix our whole attention, and instead of dissipating our energies, we must follow an intelligent method of concentration. The word means being gathered up at the center, and the center of anything is that point in which all its forces are equally balanced. To concentrate, therefore, means first to bring our minds into a condition of equilibrium which will enable us to consciously direct the flow of spirit to a definitely recognized purpose, and then carefully to guard our thoughts from inducing a flow in the opposite direction. We must always bear in mind that we are dealing with a wonderful potential energy, which is not yet differentiated into any particular mode, and that by the action of our mind we can differentiate it into any specific mode of activity that we will. And by keeping our thought fixed on the fact that the inflow of this energy is taking place and that by our mental attitude we are determining its direction, we shall gradually realize a corresponding externalization. Proper concentration, therefore, does not consist of strenuous effort which exhausts the nervous system and defeats its own object by suggesting the consciousness of an adverse force to be fought against, and thus creating the adverse circumstances with dread. But, in shutting out all thoughts of a kind that will disperse the spiritual nucleus we are forming, and dwelling cheerfully on the knowledge that, because the law is certain in its action, our desire is certain of accomplishment. The other great principle to be remembered is that concentration is for the purpose of determining the quality we are going to give to the previously undifferentiated energy, rather than to arrange the specific circumstances of its manifestation. That is the work of the creative energy itself, which will build up its own forms of expression quite naturally if we allow it, thus saving us a great deal of needless anxiety. What we really want is expansion in a certain direction, whether of health, wealth, or whatnot. And so long as we get this, what does it matter whether it reaches us through some channel which we thought we could reckon upon, or through some other whose existence we had not suspected? It is the fact that we are concentrating energy of a particular kind for a particular purpose that we shall fix our minds upon, and not look upon any specific details as essential to the accomplishment of our object. These are the two golden rules regarding concentration. But we must not suppose that because we have to be on our guard against idle drifting there is to be no such thing as repose. On the contrary, it is during periods of repose that you accumulate strength for action. But repose does not mean a state of purposelessness. As pure spirit, the subjective mind never rests. It is only the objective mind in its connection with the physical body that needs rest. And though there are no doubt times when the greatest possible rest is to be obtained by stopping the action of our conscious thought altogether, the more generally advisable method is by changing the direction of the thought and, instead of centering it upon something we intend to do, letting it dwell quietly upon what we are. This direction of thought might, of course, develop into the deepest philosophical speculation, but it is not necessary that we should be always either consciously projecting our forces to produce some external effect or working out the details of some metaphysical problem, but we may simply realize ourselves as part of universal livingness and thus gain a quiet centralization, which, though maintained by a conscious act of the volition, is the very essence of rest. From this standpoint, we see that all is life and all is good, and that nature, from a clearly visible surface to our most arcane depths, is one vast storehouse of life and good, entirely devoted to our individual use. We have the key to all our treasures, and we can now apply our knowledge of the law of being without entering into all those details which are only needed for purposes of study. And doing so, we find it results in our having acquired the consciousness of our oneness with the world. This is the great secret. And when we have once fathomed it, we can enjoy our possession of the world or of any part of it, because by our recognition we have made it, and can increasingly make it our own. Whatever most appeals to us at any particular time or place is that mode of the universal living spirit with which at that moment we are most in touch, and realizing this, we shall draw from it streams of vital energy which will make the very sensation of livingness a joy, and will radiate from us as a sphere of vibration that can deflect all injurious suggestion on whatever plan. We may not have literary, artistic, or scientific skill to present to others the results of our communings with nature, but the joy of this sympathetic indrawing will nevertheless produce a corresponding outflow, manifesting itself in the happier look and kindlier mien of him who thus realizes his oneness with every aspect of the world. He realizes, and this is the great point in that attitude of mind, which is not directed to any specific external object, that for himself he is, and always must be, the center of all this galaxy of life. And thus he contemplates himself as seated at the center of infinitude, not an infinitude of blank space, but pulsating with living being, in all of which he knows that the true essence is nothing but good. This is the very opposite to a selfish self-centeredness. It is the center where we find that we both receive from all and flow out to all. Apart from this principle of circulation, there is no true life, and if we contemplate our central position only as affording us greater advantages for intaking, we have missed out the whole point of our studies by missing the real nature of the life principle, which is action and reaction, If we would have life enter into us, we ourselves must enter into life, enter into the spirit of it, just as we must enter into the spirit of a book or a game to enjoy it. There can be no action at a center only. There must be a perpetual flowing out towards the circumference, and thence back again to the center to maintain a vital activity. Otherwise, collapse must ensue either from anemia or congestion. But if we realize the reciprocal nature of the vital pulsation, and that the outflowing consists in the habit of mind which gives itself to the good it sees in others, rather than in any specific actions, then we shall find that the cultivation of this disposition will provide innumerable avenues for the universal livingness to flow through us, whether as giving or receiving, which we had never before suspected. And this action and reaction will so build up our own vitality that each day will find us more truly alive than any that had preceded it. This, then, is the attitude of repose in which we may enjoy all the beauties of science, literature, and art, or may peacefully commune with the spirit of nature without the aid of any third mind to act as its interpreter, which is still a purposeful attitude although not directed to a specific object. We have not allowed the will to relax its control, but have merely altered its direction, so that for action and repose alike we find that our strength lies in our recognition of the unity of the spirit and of ourselves as individual concentrations of it.